Good morning. The title of this talk is how do I create self, and can I stop it? that's the title. But let's see if it's gonna be like that or not. Title can be deceptive. So this is the book, Discovering the True Self, Kodo Sawaki's Art of Zen Meditation. And then Kodo Sawaki is a teacher of Uchiyama Roshi, and then Uchiyama Roshi is Okuma Roshi's teacher. And then Arthur Braverman edited this book. So, so something. Oh, so I wanted to share this little bit. So this is what Sawaki Roshi said about the Dharma talk. I don't stand here giving talks for others. I give them for myself. You should not listen to my talk, but rather listen by stirring up something inside you, something that steers you and pulls you on. It should truly call to you. This is what these talks should be. It's not as if you can get something from someone or give something to someone. So I hope something is stirring up, and then you can see that. So we've been talking about Four Noble Truths, and then principle of Buddha's teaching of no self, and then impermanence. So we are going to tackle a little bit on no self idea or concept or the truth, however you want to put it. So another quotes from Sawaki Roshi. Each of us should be positioned in no self. The duty that is fully achieved in that position is where no self exists. This is being one with all things. It is the true teaching, the foundation of heaven and earth. The one who works in this way is the Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara. Hence, he works connected to the universe. Therefore, having no hindrances, he throws out his self, small self, ego, and practices diligently in the duty of his station, engaged in a practice of the prajna paramita. It's like wisdom. Throw out the small you, and then 3,000 worlds will all be yourself. Great. So I think so when I first heard the no self, there's no you, there's no self, that was, I think maybe I said it in maybe second talk or third talk when I went to Vipassana meditation second time. And then I listened to the Dharma talk by Mr. Goenka, the recording, and he said there's no you, there's no I, there's no you, no self. And I was like, what? So I ran to teachers, made an appointment, and they went to see a teacher there, the teacher there, and then said, what does he mean? What does he mean by that? I was totally like, what? I was being myself and I, and then, up to that moment, so it's like, what? So it's sort of like a, the, like a ground is taking out of your, underneath. it's all of a sudden like, what is it, you know? So, you know, of course, the teacher didn't say, you know, much. You know, she's like, you have to just sit more. Don't worry about that, you know. So, yeah. So if you feel like you know, kind of devastated with the idea of no self, and it's like, oh my God, what do you mean? Like it's so nihilistic, annihilation of self. It's just, you know, it feels devastating. But it's actually liberation. There's no freedom in individual self. And then, so individual self, and then no self, and then the universal self of all being has to be, you know, connected. You know, it's not just, okay, there's just nothing, you're nothing, you know, and then, you know, but it's not like that. So we would try to see, you know, from different angle, and then maybe, you know, this we can, you know, play with it, you know, a little bit today. So we just sat the zazen for 50 minutes. So maybe it might be easier to try a little bit to sort of like see the taste of this no self. So we were kind of like, you know, questioning our, you know, assumption. So right now you're sitting either on a cushion or chair, and then you can close your eye, or you don't have to close your eyes, but if you can just feel where your boundary is, where your self starts and ends. So if you're sitting and then maybe you feel like cushion, but when you really sense the sensation, can you sense where the cushion starts and then where your body is starting? Do you really see clearly there's a boundary without going to your head, without going to your thoughts or feelings or idea? Can you really, you know where your boundary is, where you start, and then where the other starts? So, so this is just kind of like, you know, play, you know, little experiment. So I was talking to Jeff. Jeff is professor at Indiana University, and then he told me about his friend who was also a biology professor, and then he was studying. His focus was on skin, and then he, you know, when he studied, you know, he realized skin is so permeable. Just, you know, it's just like really, it's not really, you think this is just, you know, solid thing, but it's really permeable, like, you know, can penetrate. So yeah, that's what he studied. So I thought it's kind of interesting, like, you know, so when we really see ourselves as a solid, you know, entity, and then, you know, question that assumption, you know, how what is the, self, I, we're calling I, but what is this I? And then, so Buddha was, deconstructed to 5 aggregates, like a bundle of 5 things. Yeah. So we'll go a little bit, so the first one is form, like body, the material, like a material existence, matter, that's form, but that's impermanent. You can see, like, so all the cells of the body, you're born, when you're a baby, it's already gone, so the cells are totally like renewed, I don't know, every 7 days or 5 days, or every cell has a different life. So your body is not the same body you have when you have your baby, and then obviously you don't look like a baby anymore. So it's kind of like there's a metaphor of or analogy of saying this, our self, as like a river. So river is running, constantly running, like in the water, it's running from the top to bottom. And then, so it's kind of like our self is like a part of this river. It's constantly running. So you can't really grab hold of it. Like there's no fixed thing, So if you think, okay, this part of the river is the I, but that's already gone, it's already, so so you really see you have to see the impermanent nature of ourselves. And then second one is sensations, sense tones, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. And that's also, probably easy to see, sensation arise and ceases, arise and ceases, So you can't really say that's, this is me, this is I, And perception, the number 3, naming world. So that's also changing constantly, when you had perception when you were little is completely different from now. When I was kindergarten, like 4 years old, I couldn't really imagine to become 30. So I thought I'll be dead by then. So, but now here I am. I'm much older than 30. So, my perception of the world is completely different. How I see the world. My world was just, my kindergarten and my neighborhood. And then there was no, I don't know, maybe there was, I don't think there was internet or cell phone. Maybe you can imagine that world. I was teaching Japanese language to 10 years old, like, 10 years old. And then the girls, and then they're like, they have Japanese parents. Either one of them is Japanese parent. So they were studying Japanese, and then we were using a book, a textbook, and then it was a little bit outdated. The book I was using, textbook, was a little outdated, and then said like, fax machine. And I was, what is fax machine? They had no idea what fax machine is. And then the answering machine, the phone answering machine, we used to have that, but there's, what is answering machine? So their world and my world was completely different, And so number 4, mental formations, karmic formations. everything we form in our thoughts, feelings, will, volition, wholesome, unwholesome. So, yeah, so your thoughts and feelings are always changing, Oh, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy, and then, next moment there will be, you have completely different feelings, and then it doesn't last, it arises and ceases. So you can, you can see the impermanence nature of that very easily. And number 5, a dualistic consciousness, self versus others. Subjective knowledge arises in recognition of other for awareness of other, for standards. So me as a subject, arises, and others, But when you can see that also is not really concrete, it's not always same, that consciousness arises and ceases. So I do really hope everybody's doing meditations. I hope everybody's practicing it. So because if this is, it's easier to see when you practice zazen, practice meditation. One of my new friend, asked me, like, why do you have to sit? Why do we have to, do zazen? Why do we have to meditate? So meditation is, I think it's not just my opinion. It's the most natural things for us to do. Just sitting, it's very natural. So even though you might not be sitting on a cushion, you might be sitting on a porch and then maybe looking at your garden or yard, or maybe sitting in a beach, just looking at the ocean, So we do, it's a very natural thing for us to sit and see. And then, so it's also like, and then also zazen is made it like a really sort of like a perfect way of us to see the nature of ourselves. Impermanent natures and no self nature is much, much easier to see when you're sitting zazen, sitting meditation. So if you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. And then it's kind of like I don't know. I feel like maybe it's very, very hard or very impossible to practice, to understand the no self and the impermanence without sitting practice. But the Dogen also said, and the many other teachers said, it's not sitting. Zazen is not only sitting. You can be all kinds of postures. Posture of walking, standing, lying down can be all zazen. Doesn't have to be like a cross-legged, full lotus or half lotus. That's the only zazen. So the recommendation is you can actually practice continuously, to have this zazen practice actually 24 hours a day. But maybe maybe you can just try just a little bit. So I would like to explore and examine question, assumption and habit of mind that we have, sort of like a deconstructing the self a little bit, to getting perspective. So to sort of like a working out to not take seriously as absolute and then substantial reality, as me, I, basically don't take yourself seriously. And then, so, just gonna go down this list a little bit. So separate self, fixed self identity, this individual identity, how, you can see these are created by your thoughts. So, I'm just throwing out the, idea. So, but, when we sit zazen, we're not doing that, we just sit, just leaving all thoughts, putting down, just coming and going. So this is different from, what we do in zazen. So don't get confused. So don't do this when you're doing zazen. Okay. So so there's kind of like 3 categories. This is one is like this is mine. This is mine, like ownership. This is probably like it's easier to see. I'm the owner of this body. And then, but this owner of the body is also questionable. You don't really have control over your body. Your blood is circulating without your agreement. You are not really, okay, now blood flow, and then now stop. You're not doing that. And heart is beating by itself. You're not really control over your heart. And then you're breathing, like breathing is just happening. You can make it like a, like rapid breath, but you still have a, breathing. If you, if you stop breathing, you die. So, so you don't really think you think you own this body, you're the owner of the body, but you're not really, I don't think you're the owner. So the other thing is like owner of like an object or stuff, or like my house or my temple or my teacher, my country, so this is my thing, my children, my mom, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, it's mine, this is mine, but then so it's interesting how that thought arises, almost immediately, and then you think that's true, but is it really true? You think you own land, you think you own this house and land, and this, this is my, this is my house, this is my property, but the land didn't say I'm yours. And then like the country, idea of country, is totally creation. So, this land doesn't say like, okay, I'm the land here, it's going to be Indiana. So yes, the land says, oh, yes, I am Indiana, and then this person, well, I'm Illinois, so we're different, it's not like that, So we putting idea onto everything exists in the world and then, you say like, oh, this is my country, this is my people, this is our people, so that's completely, fabricated by our concept. I think the other day, so my job is like a mow lawn here, and then I was That's my main job. So on the temple, and then so I had more like a little bit sidewalk of our temple, and then so when I was about to mow, there was truck parked on the sidewalk that the way I want to mow, and I was like, this is my sidewalk. You can't park your truck here. So it's like, I don't even own this temple. I don't even own this sidewalk, but it just comes up. It's like, ooh, so then I can say, okay, it's all right. So these you can see how quickly the ownership comes up, and then you can question, like, do I really own this? Can I really own this? But it comes up very, very quickly. Even I think this comes up like even a little, like I think I had a lunch with my friend, and then a friend had a 3 years old boy, and then he had like big, like French fries. He can't not eat all of them. So my friend said, "Oh yeah, just eat some his French fries." And I was, I picked up one French fry. He was so angry. That's my French fries. You were not gonna touch my French fries, right? So how did that French fry become his? It's like it was potatoes, grow in a field, and it comes to the restaurant, and then somebody cooked it, and then we ordered it, and the French fries come. That's my French fry. So so that's it's kind of interesting how quickly all these ideas of self comes up in early childhood. So this is the second one, is like, this is what I am, me, entity, individual, me-ness, separate being. So that's when we sitting zazen, it's easier to see, like, you don't really have to be me or I to be sitting, so, and then we just experimented a little bit when we are seeing, there you can know there's a boundary of yourself, where the self starts and then self ends, and where others start, and then so that's kind of like interesting play. So another one is that this is my self, identity, this is my story of self, ideas, philosophies, opinions, narrative self. And then you're maybe identified with your job, professions, status, you might heard it before, like, well, you have this name card or something, the title, and then, oh, you're doctor, oh, you're PhD, you're medical doctor, it's like, and then somebody must might have said, like, oh yeah, call me doctor, or something like that. So or like, it's kind of like your resume, what you have done in your life. My case, I was like a TV, producer, director, writer, and then then after that, I became artist, painter, and then the Japanese teacher. So you can grab onto, like, your identity. You can be, I'm a high school student, right? So but that's also really that's your question is that is that really true you? What is true you? And yeah, idea of gender, age, nationality, political orientation, roles. So I went to work in a community kitchen this Friday, and as a volunteer, and then so I was cutting potatoes for 2 hours, just dicing potatoes, cutting, and then I noticed so when we are working in a community kitchen, there's like a music is running in the background, but so you could do like a zazen when you're like cooking or doing dishes, some kind of like a simple tact, tac, tac, task, simple task. Yeah, so I was cutting potato, and then I noticed how quickly the idea of me comes up, like oh, I am good at cutting potatoes. And then how I started, my mind is systemizing the how to cut potato, like I'm organizing okay, I'm cutting this way, and I'm putting first I have to take the eyes of potato and then putting down in a bunch of like maybe 10, and then cutting on a sideway first, then cutting like a narrower, and then cutting more. So I systemized and then so I was like, oh my god, I'm so good. Those things comes up, and it's kind of like cute. So also like so because 2 hours, and then there's so much potatoes that I have to cut. And then the person who was washing potatoes, like bringing more and bringing more. It's like, no, I thought this is anyway. So like it's getting closer to the end, and then my mind was like, I wanted to finish it. I want to finish. Nobody told me you have to finish. This cutting potato, but I was started to kind of like a little bit rushing. So how your mind is doing it, like I, because I can finish, I can do it, so it's sort of like a very conditioned, like be productive, be good, from early age we are really, really conditioned that way. So I thought it's kind of interesting to see, so when you do like simple tasks, like maybe just walk into subway station or train station, or maybe walking your office to your bathroom, or so you can see how your you get that can be your meditation time too, because it might be easier to see how sense of I is coming up and grab it, and then you identify with it. So the thoughts, uh, uh, thoughts, thought. So Uchiyama Roshi said, thought is secretion of brain, like a digestive enzyme in secretion of stomach. So you don't need to, wrestle your thought to ground. You just have to see it. You just have to see the not solid, see not to see it not so absolute, truth. Idea of self is not, idea of like individual I is not so solid. So yeah, I'm gonna make it really short today. That's my idea. I'm attached to it. So Oh, so 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 these are like also another way of like perception. I am hearing, I am the one hearing, I am the one seeing, and then I am the one touching, smelling, tasting. So, but if you, Dogen said, turn your eyeballs to see, can you see this entity who is hearing? Can you see the entity behind you who is seeing? So that's interesting, question. Can you see it? Can you find somebody? But if you find somebody, who's the one find it? you know. So, but can you be hearing, hearing and seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, can be there without entity I. So, and sensation, it's, sensation, I feel like sensation might be really easy to see because, you can see the sensation arise and ceases, maybe easier to see. And I practice you don't take a note. I practiced the Vipassana meditation before I started the Zen practice. And then the first Vipassana meditation practice I did for 8 years was really focusing on sensation. So we were sitting like almost, when you go to retreat, you sit like maybe 10 hours, 12 hours, just observing sensations, like scanning the body. That's all we did. Up and down, up and down, So, so then you can really, that's really, good. For me, it was probably like a good starting point. So I was getting really better with observing sensation. And then, so when you're sitting, it's sort of like, you see the sensation comes up, but you can see the sensation, you can sense the sensation, but if you don't reject it or grab it, it just, arises and ceases over and over. And then, so one time I had a cat, cute kitty, Maru-chan. So Maru-chan, and then I moved to a new apartment that time, and with another roommate, and my roommate had a cat, Miso-chan. And the Miso-chan was very territorial cat. So she was so upset that we moved in. She's like, how dare, and you bring a cat to this house, I mean, I'm translating Miso's mind. And then, but, I feel like, well, I mean, Miso actually really attacked me, like, when I was carrying Maru-chan to my room, she attacked me like, and then, bruised me. She was a strong cat. Anyway, so I wanted the Miso-chan and Maru-chan to get along. That's my idea of we should live harmoniously. So one day I grabbed Maru-chan and then bring it to Miso-chan, and then see, you can get along, be nice to each other. And Maru-chan bit me. So pierced my finger with, what's called this, the tooth? Canine tooth. But, I think it's I think it's because I was, the meditating for, the 8 years. I didn't have any reaction. So it was very interesting. I see kind of like slow motion of her Mao-chan's teeth, canine tooth, piercing my finger like this. And then there was a pain, but there was no like, God, how could you do this? Like, you're a bad cat. So it was interesting. So it is like a really possible to to see or sense the sensation without making it, like this is my pain. This is, I hurt. You hurt me. So it's possible. So this is kind of like an example of the how is this I don't know what book is this. So okay, what's the sutra mentioned? Alatha, maybe I'm saying it wrong. Alatha Sutra mentions in an untrained person, being hurt is like getting hit with 2 arrows. The bodily feelings and then mental reaction. But in a trained person, they only feel the bodily one. So at that moment, I was able to only feel the bodily one, but not I didn't really create, mental, pain. So, but that's the maybe only time. So the 2 arrows. This is a parable of 2 arrows. It's interesting. So what I don't know which book I got it, but anyway, so the Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? The student replies, it is. The Buddha then asked, if the person is struck by a second arrow, is that even more painful? The student replies, again, it is. The Buddha then explained, in life, we cannot always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. And with this second arrow comes the possibility of choice. So there's a story of Sariputra. Sariputra was Buddha's disciple. He's like first disciple. Anyway, so he's he's awakened, person. But he's a very humble person. He's always like walked with the end of the maybe like I don't know 100 or 500 sanghas walking together with Buddha. But Sariputra always walked with other the elders or sick people who were walking very slowly. So he was walking last. So one day he was attacked by a person, I think a lay person. This person thought like, oh, he just didn't like Sariputra. I don't remember why he did it, or anyway how. But so he attacked Sariputra, and then Sariputra was kind of stumbled a little bit, but he didn't even look back. He just kept walking, So he was okay. Oh, this pain. Okay, I'm okay. Just he was not even curious. Who did this? So our usual reaction is, who did this? How come? And it's totally like sort of like a self-centered. Who could did this to me? It comes up very quickly. But Sariputta didn't have any reaction. He didn't create the I in that moment. He just felt the sensation, and that's it. He didn't really need to create anything else. But other people, who saw it, it's like got really mad. How could you do that? How could that guy did this to Venerable Sariputta? So the mob of the people, I'm not sure, probably some monks too, they went to this guy's house and then tried to attack them, sort of like, you have to apologize to Sariputta, but, or like, you're gonna, otherwise we're gonna attack you or something. But Sariputta realized that's what's happening and went to the house like, okay, you guys stop it. He's already forgiven, and then he just, that's it, So you could potentially live like that way, and then which is really liberating, and then freeing our self from suffering, a lot of suffering. Okay, I think maybe I'm gonna stop maybe here. It's yeah, so you can experiment or like play with yourself, maybe this week, which one is strong for yourself. You have more tendency to say about ownership, this is my my thing, oh no, don't touch it, this is my thing, okay, no, or this is myself, my idea, or like it's like, oh, this is how it should be, you should like me, you should love me because I'm great. or just complete, like me and others, I don't want to be with others, so that's completely like always feeling separate, so what is like tendency for you, it's interesting to see and then examine. Thank you very much. Questions? Yeah. Beginner's question, and then beginner's mind question, please.
Thank you for your talk.
Thank you.
That exercise about feeling without your head where you ends, I just found that very interesting.
What did you find out?
I don't know where it ends.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah.
It came at the perfect time because last night I was talking to somebody about I just didn't understand. People always say there is no self, and we're all connected, and I just didn't understand. And I still don't, but
it's okay. Yeah.
But I just found that exercise to come at the perfect time and give me some sort of insight. So thank you.
Yeah, great. So I think Uchiyama she said something like he's been sitting like maybe 30 years, and then he said in his writing, oh, I finally see universal self, so it's sort of like our tradition is like, you sit 10 years, and then after you sit 10 years, 10 more years. But so there's no goal to get universal self, because it's already here and now. It's your first sitting is already there's universal self, and then the conventional self, we said we call each other the names because we cannot call each other, okay, part of the part of this part of universe come here, this part of universe come here. You can't live like that. So we created the name for our convenience. But so that's, and then that as you sit more, you can see the impermanence nature, arising and ceases, and you can sit without me, Chris, Chris sitting. You don't really have to have Chris to be sitting, right? When you're sitting. So you can loosen your identity more as you practice. And the more you see the impermanent nature of yourself, more you can see the no self nature. But it's sort of like it's already everything is here. We're not really creating something new. It's everything is available, but you might be able to see gradually, or like and then we just have to keep practicing. So even I think we studied the Menzan, and then Menzan is our lineage. I can't really explain Menzan. Anyway, so Menzan is one of our teacher in our lineage. So, Dogen said the same thing too. The Buddha Buddha practiced 6 years, and then the Bodhidharma practiced 9 years. Even though then they kept sitting after that too, but the Bodhidharma was already awakened, so they'll keep sitting, because like, okay, I got it, that's it. It's not like that. We have to keep realizing ourselves.
I thought so don't worry, not a question. I just had a comment related to that. I listen sometimes to the Wisdom podcast, which is the podcast of Wisdom Publications, which publishes a lot of Hojo-san's books. And Hojo-san has been on the podcast also, by the way. And they were interviewing someone who's a Tibetan practitioner, but also involved somehow in neuroscience. And he and this other neuroscientist put together an app, a phone app, about meditation. And my first reaction was like, another stupid app, because there's so many of these meditation apps that I don't know. I haven't really tried any of them. But this person was very impressive, I thought, and he had practiced Buddhism very intensely his whole life. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this app, because people talk about these apps all the time, and I've never tried one. And so for the past couple weeks, I've been doing it in the evening, and it had that same kind of exercise, where you kind of try to feel where your body ends, and it talks about using your field of vision and your field of hearing. And so I was doing it one night, and there was like a huge lightning strike while I was doing meditation. And I was like, whoa. So yeah, it's a cool exercise. So that's my story.
So now that your phone has the app, is it enlightened?
Yeah. So when I was doing the Vipassana meditation, when I was scanning the meditation, my attention was like 1 inch diameter, so it was like this. But I think at the Shikantaza, when we do zazen here, it's more like opening. We're not really focusing on any particular sensation or particular senses. We're just more opening to let it just come and go. But that might be difficult for the very beginner people. But it was difficult, for me too. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? Are there any questions, comments from folks online?
There is one.
Oh, there's no questions.
Mitko?
Oh, Mitko, how are you?
Hi, Esho. Good. How are you?
Good, how are you? Good to see you. You're from like really, like what's the angle? It's got an interesting angle.
Yeah. No, I am visiting somebody, so
Oh, okay.
I am in their living room.
Good, good. Oh, the
Just
memorial the
listening.
weekend. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So, could you say something about? So you said how Bodhidharma Buddha, they kept sitting even after their awakening, and they kept on sitting and kept on sitting, and kind of it sounds that that's their encouragement for our practice. But could you say why we keep on sitting, why we continue sitting?
So, Dogen said, the practice is enlightenment. Practice, our zazen is enlightenment. The practice, even your first zazen, practice enlightenment is one thing. So it's not like, okay, I got it, and then it just ends, not like that. So, can you ask me more? I'm not sure this is clarifying.
No, I think that you said it is that I guess my question was why there is no and like okay, I got it, and okay, from now
Right.
I can just move along.
Yeah, I mean, so huh? Tony, you want to say something?
Thank you very much.
You have a response to Mitko's question about like why we're sitting after enlightenment.
Just
a surface sort of answer that I work with or think of is just to do a language. For example, for a student thing, we're sitting and so forth and so on, and it's a practice, okay? But then when the teacher or the person is achieved it, it seems to be very natural that this person under conditions will express it. So for me, I interchange the word practice with express. So you're already enlightened, you don't have to work at it, but like a flower just blooms. And I think a natural related feeling of somebody who's got a certain level of understanding and in sympathy with others, or maybe not. It's just I don't know this. I haven't read the ancient texts, but to me, a helpful word for me is expression. Oh, it's an expression. Bodhidharma, after 5 years, he's expressing it. That's how he expresses it, or that's how it is expressed. And so then it's not the same kind of a problem. It's a word thing. And then I settle down, and it's like, well, I don't need to. He's expressing it. That's how I get by. That's how I move on.
I like it. What do you think, Nico?
Well, I think that part of it is that if we don't keep on sitting, we lose our practice. We lose our enlightenment, quote unquote, if we don't keep on sitting. I think that in the Genjo Koan, like in the first paragraph, it says something that in a version, flowers fade even if we like them, and weeds grow even though we dislike them. So your mind garden, if you don't sit, it will unknowingly get a lot of weeds there. A lot of weeds will grow, and you won't see it. And practice help us kind of navigate in this weeds. I guess that would be my answer if I'm answering this question.
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Connie said expressing instead of practicing, and maybe like being in the world. And then, yeah, I don't really think, Dogen or Bodhidharma or Buddha say, oh, I'm going to practice. So that's the way of being. And it's not like, just, you have to really know sitting on a cushion is not on zazen. So you can do it 24 hours a day, just being, realizing, expressing, the true nature of ourself constantly. Thank you.
One kind of thing to add to this
Yeah.
that I think is helpful,
Mhm.
that I heard from Hoko, I think in her intro to Dogen retreat that she did a couple years ago. And she said, she used the phrase, we train as Buddha. So it's not like our sitting, we train, we're practicing to then become enlightened or become Buddha and sort of like get it. It's sort of like we, in our sitting, are doing what Buddhas do. We're doing the same thing, and like Bodhidharma's sitting after he's enlightened, he's just doing the activity of a Buddha. And the activity of a Buddha is to express awakening, and sitting is sort of this very fundamental way of just allowing universal awakening to be. And so even though we can say like, my understanding is not the same as the Buddha's understanding, when we sit, we are sort of training, we're maybe moving toward Buddhahood, but we're also training as Buddha. So even if we're moving along, we're also just expressing awakening. So both of those, yeah, that phrase, training as Buddha, was really helpful to me in this discussion. So
Thank you.
I just would put in there, we all sit the same zazen. It's exactly the same zazen. Same zazen as the Buddha.
So again, like I have to emphasize, like there's no goal. We're not really trying to get enlightenment. That's really a trap. If you're doing to try to get enlightenment, that's not that's not our practice. So the Hoshin reminded us that your zazen is Buddha's zazen. The same zazen as Buddha's zazen. And then Jiju Zanmai, what's it called in English, the self-perceiving employing samadhi. What's the translation?
yeah, that's one way to translate it.
One way to translate. So in that one, you can imagine. You can imagine how powerful is one person's zazen. You can, so even they say like all the Buddhas, trying to think of this one person's zazen, how powerful this person's zazen, they can't really, say it, So same zazen, and when we do zazen, we can we really know and realize this universal self. So we are just sitting as a universal self. Great. And
A question.
oh wait, no.
Oh, here's a question for you.
Oh God.
Does someone online have a question?
Not that I'm seeing currently.
Okay, right. Yeah, doju.
I can't help myself.
Explain yourself.
He's a beginner.
I think this is something that you would have kind of some special insight into. So sometimes, you mentioned cutting the potatoes and sort of having this self-awareness of like how you're thinking about it. I often find myself annoyed with the behavior of average Americans, like doing obnoxious things, like driving big pickup trucks that like emit big clouds of smoke and other things that are kind of antisocial. And I think part of this is kind of like the American like ethos of like do whatever you want, be an individual, like no rules, like you kind of set the rules. And it seems like if you're an American and you want to practice Buddhism, there's a big conflict there, kind of like the sort of basic cultural orientation of this country and like the idea of no self, right? But then in Japan, it's kind of almost the opposite, like the cultural orientation, generally speaking, is more like, how do I kind of help society and like not focus on myself, at least at a surface level. So I guess my question is, what kind of things, like, if you were, if you imagine yourself teaching Buddhism in Japan versus the United States, what would you do differently to try to teach no self to people?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I understand, like, it's like the Western world is probably maybe more difficult because the individual self, idea of individual self is really enforced, from early childhood, you have to be somebody, you always, I mean, we are asked in Japan, what do you want to be? What do you want to become? And you always, like, oh, who you be, you have to be somebody, you have to, be something special. That was how we were trained, But then is there like a, freedom in it? That's a good question to ask. But also, I don't know, I never, I never actually practiced Buddhism in Japan, so I have no idea, They might be very individualistic now, so who knows? But yeah, so Japan is culturally like, don't stick out, like if you're if the nail is sticking out, you'll be hammered. So just we're like conditioned to be like just be quiet and just talk behind back or something, very sneaky, So it's very different, but we suffer nonetheless, in a way. The thing is like this is tricky, like maybe I see like when I like walked on the street in Brooklyn, there's so many trash on the street. I was like, how could you do this? So I was angry at the people who were throwing a trash from like from the driving, and all the like a juice cup is throwing out. Oh no! But so our practice is see our reaction, instead of like going out to the world to try to fix it, because that's fixing mind is individualistic mind. So that way it's not gonna be solved anything. So we always have to work from the bigger, universal mind. There is the wisdom there. There's no fixed idea, there's all total dynamic function is happening as the universal self. So wisdom can be found only there, not from individual self idea. So the problem of this world, I think, is that all the individual trying to, fix the problem. It's not gonna solve anything. Sorry. But anyway, what can we do? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a different. I think it's like a really kind of like a spontaneous, dynamic, activity. So Miko ask me questions and then I respond. So when I go to Japan, and they're kind of like a boo, like just like, okay, come on, get some energy up, maybe, it's like a very different. So there's no really like a manual, our life, there's no manual for our life. So every day, every moment, you have to respond spontaneously, but how you can respond to any moment is, depending on where you're coming from, your individualistic idea of self, or the much something bigger than that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember there was a teacher at San Francisco Zen Center said something to the effect of, in Asia, they have Confucius, but in America, we have Oedipus. There's the idea of killing the authority to assert your individuality. Right? I'll submit to no one. I am my own person. But I was curious about your comparison of Siddhartha to Bodhidharma. 9 years sitting in a cave. Of course, Siddhartha also had a cave in India. I've been to it. And you've probably seen these pictures of Buddha, all skin and bones. It's sort of the good Halloween backdrop. So that's what he was doing in his cave. He was being a renunciate. He was actually practicing a system of yoga, like you find in the Yoga Sutra. He had teachers that were teaching him samadhi to achieve an enlightenment. So he was spending his 6 years before he went to the Bodhi tree, practicing something which had a goal, right? Bodhidharma didn't, right? Bodhidharma came to China, presumably already enlightened.
Yes.
So there is a difference. But now, the idea of no self. Well, the koan, does a dog have Buddha nature? And the teacher says mu in Japanese. Actually, it's wu in Chinese. And that particular character is a negation character. But in Chinese, there are a dozen more negation characters, which have a slightly different kind of negation. Like mu is one word. It basically just negates what it. Mu is more like a positive negation. It's not a negative negative. It's a positive negative. So you have the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, which literally would translate as no action, but then it talks about how water follows Wu Wei. It more directly would translate into English as effortless action. Like it has a spontaneity to it, which is not defined by any effort. It just happens of its own accord, like heart beating and something like that. So Wu is not a negation in the sense of nothing is happening. There is something there. It's just not something that is substantial. It is something that's flowing and impermanent. And I exist. I just don't exist as a substance. There's no permanent self, but there is a self. And ultimately, when the boundaries are broken and you no longer identify with a localized individuality, there's Indra's net. So there is a self. It's just not the self you think it is. And I think part of that is just grammar, because we have nouns. And in more primitive languages, which are polysynthetic, it's more verb-based. And so I wonder if Buddhism could even exist in the way that we understand it if we had one of those languages which are all verby. Everything is action, because it already demonstrates that if it's an activity, it's not a substance, it's something that's happening rather than something that is. So there's a linguistic difference there in how we understand things, and our noun-oriented grammar tries to make things concrete, which are actually flowing.
That was your beginner's question.
Yeah, it's all beginning.
Well, thank you.
So who gave the Dharma talk?
Mr. Ritoku, thank you. That's satisfied everybody. Great.
If there's no more questions, comments?
Ah!
I promise you it's easy.
Okay. You can
So-
answer yourself.
Well, that was part of the deal with myself,
Okay.
was I had to be able to answer it.
Okay.
Because we have a similar background. I started with Vipassana meditation and did it for about 5 years before switching to Zen, Soto Zen. And I didn't know you had the same background as I do. I even went to an Esho retreat, only one, but you know, it's a spot where we can really dive deep into that sort of practice. And so I've gone through this transition where from Vipassana to Shikantaza, and so have you. So I wonder what that transition was like for you, if it was startling, and enlightening, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult because the Vipassana tradition, in the Vipassana meditation I did with Mr. Goenka, you know, we keep eyes closed. And then, so, you know, then when I went to, you know, the Zen center, they said you have to keep your eyes open, like, you know, so that was hard. And then also you know, there's a mudra, and like, oh, that's hard, you know. The mudra, keep your eyes open. Yeah, that was hard, you know. And then I think in the beginning, and then I still do sometimes, like, you know, scan my body, you know, because when I get like really dull, and then, oh, okay, so this is just sort of like, you know, help me to wake up a little bit, you know, keep my body wake up. So sometimes I do a little bit, you know, but then, yeah, I think it's more you do. When did I start doing Soto Zen? 20, wait, no, I don't remember. Anyway, so I think more you do it, you know, you might sense it too, like it might become more natural, you know, you can sense this, you know, the little bit more like you know, because my meditation was 1 inch, you know, attention, 1 inch diameter attention, you know, and then it was pretty easy to do, you know, and then but now, you know, it's more like a loosen awareness and just more wide open, and then, you know, so that was challenging in the beginning, you know, but I think like I get more used to it, you know, this way, and then just I can see it's, you know, it's helpful, you know, helpful, is that a word? Right. So I enjoyed it. I love meditation, so yeah, so yeah, if you don't like meditation, that's doomed. Anyway, so what is your answer? How was your experience for you?
My experience going from Vipassana to Shikantaza was startling, because when you know, as you said, Vipassana, we're scanning our body, we're watching our breath, we're letting thoughts pass. And we're doing something, and in a way we're setting up a new habit, right? We're not really we're releasing other habits of mind and of body. And so one thing I'll say is
instead of having this focusing of awareness, as you say, we have an opening of awareness. So instead of seeing something, we're sort of seeing everything in an effortless manner. That's one thing I've noticed. And then the whole nothing part of it was the unsettling part. It's like, oh, I'm used to doing this body sensation scanning, but instead that had to drop off as well. So I'm still digesting the transition.
Good. Yeah, I remember. So the reason I question myself about the vipassana meditation, that particular method of scanning, was even though we're, I did Satipatthana Sutra course, and then in the Satipatthana Sutra course explained about, all kinds of, the awareness of sensation, awareness of form, awareness of, all five skandha. Then I went to teacher, why are we doing only sensations? It's like, what about other five? What are we gonna do with that? And then also, I mentioned it before, like I was getting with this scanning, but then as soon as I get up from the cushion, my mind was all over. It's like, so so I'm not really blaming, the vipassana meditation. So because my friends are doing it and they're fine, so just I'll leave them alone. But my case, my particular thing was, it was difficult because, there's no you, there's no I, no self, but who is scanning it? I am scanning it. What's this I? Like, I couldn't, basically I couldn't get rid of the I who's scanning. So I was like, what? So that was like the kind of like a turning point. Like, wait a second, what do I do with this? Conundrum. So thank you.
Last chance?
No more last chance. Don't give them chance.
Just kidding.
Okay. Just kidding.
Okay.